Smoke filled the air. The sky was no longer blue, but dark with ash and fire. The ground shook as massive machines tore through cities once full of life. Buildings crumbled. Cries of the helpless echoed across the plains. The Threxians, a peaceful insectoid race, had no weapons strong enough to stop the invasion. General Vresh, the shield is gone. A soldier screamed, wings twitching in fear. Vresh stood tall, though his body trembled. His black eyes scanned the burning horizon. The shield dome protecting the capital had fallen. Now, the enemy would reach the palace in minutes. "Evacuate who you can," he said, voice calm but firm, "and send it." The communications officer nodded and rushed to a console deep in the bunker below. With shaky claws, she opened a secure channel. "To any star, to any ship," she said, voice cracking. "We beg for reinforcements. We are under attack by the Zarkith Dominion. They have destroyed 10 worlds already. We are next. Please, help us." She hit send. The message launched into space, bouncing from relay to relay, across empty sectors and forgotten systems. But something went wrong. It hit an old hidden satellite in a dead System 1, orbiting a silent blue planet no longer listed on any star map. The satellite came alive. A red light blinked. The signal had reached Earth far below Antarctica. Deep inside a long-forgotten bunker, machines powered on for the first time in centuries. Walls lit up, screens flashed warnings. "Incoming galactic emergency signal," the AI announced in a cold, emotionless voice. Above the surface, snow melted around a small black tower that rose silently into the sky. It scanned the stars, it listened, and then it spoke. "Threat level, extinction, race, Threxian, enemy, Zarkith Dominion. Action required." In a chamber of steel and shadows, a voice responded. "Prepare the fleet." The Threxians didn't know. If anyone had heard them, the signal was weak, desperate, and not meant for far-off systems. Days passed, then a week, and still, the sky stayed full of fire. Inside the underground palace, General Vresh gathered the last few survivors. Children, elders, and scholars huddled in fear. "We did everything we could," he whispered to himself. He walked outside, past the flames, past the ruins of once beautiful towers. He stood tall, ready to face death. But then, the sky. Changeda, strange sound filled the air. A low hum, like a storm approaching. The wind shifted, the clouds twisted, and then it appeared. A massive black ship, silent, smooth like a blade cutting through the sky. It moved without sound. No markings, no banners, just pure, dark metal. Zarkith warships turned to engage, their weapons locked on. The black ship opened fire. Light brighter than 1,000 suns poured from it. The closest Zarkith ship shattered instantly. The others turned to flee, but they were too slow. More black ships appeared, slipping in from nothingness, like ghosts. One by one, the invaders fell. The Threxians stared from the ground, unable to speak. "Who are they?" whispered a young child. General Vresh didn't know, but deep inside, he felt something ancient, ... something powerful, ... and then he heard a voice, not out loud, but inside his head, calm, direct. "Reinforcements received. Stand by." In orbit, aboard the lead Terran ship, Hell's Echo. Commander Reyes watched the battlefield through a tactical screen. "Enemy resistance minimal," the AI reported. "Status of Threxian civilians?" Reyes asked. "Alive, hiding, scared." He nodded. "Send ground teams. No weapons drawn unless attacked. We're here to save, not conquer." A younger officer spoke up. "Sir, the Dominion's going to notice this." "We didn't exactly arrive quietly," Reyes smirked. "Let them come." Hours later, black-armored Terran soldiers landed on the surface. They moved like shadows, clearing rubble, providing medical help, and rebuilding small shelters. They didn't speak much. They didn't ask for thanks. When a Threxian elder approached, her claws shaking, she whispered, "What are you?" A female soldier paused, then looked down at the small alien. "We're humans," she said. From Earth, the elder blinked. "That world is legend." "A death world," the soldier nodded. "Not a legend, just forgotten." News of the attack spread quickly across the stars. The Zarkith Dominion was shaken. One of their invasion fleets had vanished or wiped out by an unknown force. Spies reported rumors of dark ships, unmarked and deadly. Survivors whispered one word again and again. Humans. On a distant Zarkith war moon, the High Commander slammed his fist on the table. "I thought they were extinct," he shouted. An advisor, pale and sweating, replied, "Apparently not, and worse, they're angry." Back on Threxos, the skies were quiet. For the first time in weeks, the wind blew gently, carrying not smoke but fresh air. In the ruins of the capital, General Vresh stood at the edge of a broken balcony. He watched as the Terran ships lifted into the sky. One of the human soldiers, a captain named Morales, approached him. "We're leaving," Morales said. "Your people are safe." "You came when no one else did," Vresh replied. "Why?" Morales paused. "Because someone asked." Vresh lowered his head. "We don't have much, but if we can ever repay," Morales shook his head. "Don't owe us anything." He handed the general a small black device. "This is a contact beacon. Only use it if you're in real danger." Then he walked away. As the Terran ship vanished into the clouds, Vresh looked at the device in his hands. It was warm in deep space. Earth's fleet returned home, silent as always. Inside Hell's Echo, Commander Reyes looked at the star map. More systems were flashing red now. The Zarkith were expanding faster than expected. "Shall we prepare another strike?" the AI asked. Reyes took a deep breath. "Not yet. Let's see how loud they scream when they realize what we are." The screen showed a, quote, carved on the wall of the command bridge, words from Earth's last war. "Long ago, we do not start fights, but we finish them." And somewhere in a hidden galaxy, another voice whispered into the dark, "The Deathworlders have returned." And the galaxy trembled. The night skies above Threxos were no longer burning. For the first time in weeks, stars could be seen again. But something had changed. Though the Zarkith were gone, a new fear lingered in the hearts of the Threxians. The black ships had saved them? Yes, but what were they, really? They came from a world known only in ancient warnings. Earth, a Desta world, a place no sane explorer dared visit. Now that world had returned, and the galaxy had noticed. On the edge of Zarkith space, in a system full of resource-rich moons, the Dominion had gathered a new fleet. Warships shaped like claws hung in orbit, sharp and glowing with energy. Inside the command vessel Tyrant's Claw, Supreme General Varkath paced before a large hologram showing a planet marked in red. "Threxos," he growled. "One worthless insect planet. We were hours away from full control." An officer stepped forward. "The unknown attackers destroyed everything in minutes. Not one of our ships escaped." Varkath clenched his jaw. "You're saying one fleet, one force did this?" The officer hesitated. "No, sir. One species." Varkath's claws curled. "Earth. I thought they were extinct." "No, sir. Just Haim." Varkath slammed a fist on the control table. "Then it's time we remind the galaxy who rules." On Threxos, General Vresh met with the Threxian Council in a half-collapsed underground chamber. Holographic lights flickered. The air smelled of burned metal. "Who were those creatures?" asked a council elder. "And why did they leave so quickly?" "They said they came because of the signal," Vresh replied, "and once the Zarkith were gone, they vanished." "Do you trust them?" Vresh looked down. In his clawed hand was the small black device the Terran captain had given him. It still pulsed faintly. "I don't know if we can trust them," he said, "but I know one thing. They didn't come to conquer us." Another council member hissed softly. "They came to warn us." Far above in space, a hidden Terran fleet drifted in the shadows of a red dwarf star. Inside Hell's Echo, Commander Reyes stood before a massive screen filled with new data. "Zarkith movements increasing," the AI reported. "Two fleets forming, one heading toward neutral space." Reyes rubbed his chin. "They're reacting faster than expected." A junior officer spoke. "Sir, Threxos is safe. Should we move on?" Reyes turned. "No. They're the center now. The signal woke us and it, warned the enemy. If we leave them unprotected, we're no better than the ones we destroyed." The AI chimed in again. "Incoming message. Unidentified? Source, rooted from multiple systems, show it." A distorted face appeared. Not Zarkith, not Threxian. Something new feline features. green eyes, and metallic skin. "This is Chancellor Siva of the Rilare Union," the voice said. "We intercepted your signature. We wish to speak." "Before the Zarkith come for us next," Reyes raised a brow. "So the galaxy remembers us after all." The Rilare ship arrived in a neutral zone. No weapons, no threats, just a small silver shuttle broadcasting peace when the Terran envoy met them. Even the proud Rilare soldiers looked nervous. "You're humans," Chancellor Siva said quietly. "I never believed you were real." The Terran ambassador, a tall woman named Cara Mendez, gave a small nod. "Real, alive, watching." Siva leaned in. "You came to Threxos. Why?" They asked for help. Cara replied simply, "And if we ask?" Siva's voice was quiet now. "If we plead," Cara paused, "then Earth will answer." Back on Threxos, Threxian children gathered near the ruins of their school. One of them, a curious youngling named Teva, stared at the sky every night, hoping to see the black ships again. One evening, he found something buried near the crash site of a Zarkith Walker Estrange cube, humming softly. He touched it. It blinked. A blue hologram appeared, showing images of Earth, burning deserts, frozen mountains, giant steel cities, and machines unlike anything Threxos had ever seen. Teva ran to the elders. They studied the cube for hours. "This is a message," one whispered. "Left for us." "What does it say?" Teva asked. The elder turned, eyes wide. "It says, prepare." Meanwhile, the Zarkith Dominion was not sitting idle. On their war moon, scientists studied wreckage collected from the battlefield. Pieces of Terran armor, fragments of their drones. "This technology," said one Zarkith engineer, "it's beyond anything in our database. It resists scans. It reacts to light. It's alive." Varkith stared at the fragments. They made machines that fight like beasts and vanish like ghosts. He turned to his generals. "I want Earth found. I want its systems burned. And I want the last of their kind buried under our flag." The room roared in agreement, but far above them, in a satellite they didn't know existed. A hidden Terran spy AI recorded every word. Inside Hell's Echo, Reyes watched the feed. "So they want war," he said quietly. The AI's voice was calm. "Shall the first prepare the fleet?" Reyes didn't answer at first. He looked at the stars. "No, not yet. Let them gather. Let them scream. When we strike, it will be a silence they never recover from." On Threxos, General Vresh looked out. Across a city slowly coming back to life, new power grids, clean water systems, small shelters replacing ruins. All of it built with Terran supplies. Left without a word, not gifts, not threats, just actions. Suddenly, the beacon in his hand pulsed bright red. He turned, high above the city. The clouds twisted again. A Terran shuttle was descending. Inside the shuttle, Captain Morales checked his gear. "We're not here to fight," he told his squad. "We're here to teach." "Teach what?" one soldier asked. He looked out the window at the planet below. How to survive. In the distance, the stars whispered of movement. The Zarkith were coming. But now, Threxos was not alone, and Earth had begun to move again. The shuttle landed without sound. Black metal, smooth as glass, touched the ground outside the Threxian capital. Dust rose in a slow wave. Threxians gathered at a distance, silent, unsure, watching with wide, anxious eyes. General Vrish stood at the front, holding the small beacon that had pulsed red only minutes before. The shuttle opened. Out stepped 3 Terran soldiers. Captain Morales was first. He removed his helmet, showing a scarred human face, tired but calm. "General Vresh," he said, his voice echoing through a translator, "we've come back. This time, not for war, but to prepare you for what's coming." Inside the rebuilt council chamber, the mood was tense. The Terrans sat on one side of the round table, the Threxians on the other. Between them, silence. General Vresh finally spoke. "Your fleet saved our planet. We owe you more than words. But why return now?" Captain Morales placed a small black orb on the table. It hummed, projecting an image of stars. "These are the movements of Zarkath fleets," he said. "They are not retreating, they are regrouping." He pointed at one system. "They're building a force here, big enough to erase entire species." The council gasped. "You think they're coming back?" asked Elder Jarna. They're not just coming for you, Morales said. They're coming for us all. In the war moon orbiting the Zarkith capital, Supreme General Verkoth stood in front of the Dominion's High War Council. The Deathworlders have awakened, he said. Some laughed. Old legends, one commander scoffed. Ghost stories for the weak, Verkoth growled. You weren't at Threxos. You didn't see what they did. They destroyed our entire fleet in minutes. He raised a black shard-twisted metal, salvaged from the ruins. This was once part of their armor. It can't be melted, scanned, or broken. Another general stepped forward. So, what do we do? Verkoth's eyes gleamed. We find their homeworld. We burn it. We erase their name from history. Back on Threxos, the Terrans began teaching. Not weapons, not warfare, but defense. You don't need to become like us, Morales explained. You need to survive long enough for help to arrive. They brought small drones, sensor towers, and emergency shields. They taught Threxian engineers how to install and repair them. Children learned how to move silently, how to hide underground, how to send coded signals. What is this machine? Asked young Teva, pointing to a strange, boxy device. It hears danger, Morales said, kneeling beside him. Before it arrives, Teva tilted his head. Can it hear the Zarkith? It can hear anything, Morales replied, if you're willing to listen. But something else happened that night. One of the Terran scouts, Corporal Hayes, was flying a low patrol drone outside the city when he saw something strange movement. Not THRE Shen, not human. He leaned closer to the screen. Sir, he said through his comes, I think we've got company. At the edge of the forest, near Threxus's southern ridge, shadows moved between trees. They weren't Zarkith, but they weren't Threxian either. Reyes watched the footage from orbit. Zoom in. The screen sharpened, thin, tall figures, skin like cracked stone, eyes glowing orange. Reyes cursed under his breath. Spectrons, the AI answered calmly. They are known scavengers. They follow war zones, feed on the dead. Reyes leaned forward. They're not just scavenging, they're scouting. Captain Morales was already moving with a team before the order came through. The squad moved through the ruins in silence. Between them, high-tech rifles, heat scanners, and motion tags. They wore dark armor that absorbed light. They reached the forest by midnight. Visuals, Morales whispered, confirmed, said Hayes. 6. No, 8. They're setting up a signal dish. Not good, Morales muttered. They're calling someone. He gave the order. Take them alive if possible, but don't let them finish that call. The ambush was fast. Terran soldiers moved like wind. The Spectrons barely reacted before half of them were down. One tried to run shot in the leg. Another leaped into the trees netted midair, but one finished tapping the dish. The signal was sent. Morales cursed. Too late, he turned to the remaining Spectron, who hissed in a sharp, grinding voice. You should not have come back. Morales stepped forward, calm and cold. You don't know what you've done. The Spectoran bared its sharp teeth. Oh, we do. Aboard Hell's Echo, Reyes studied the incoming signals trail. Where did they send it? The AI responded, after a pause. It bounced through 6 systems, but it ended in one. A red circle appeared. Reyes stared at the screen. That's impossible, correct? The AI said. The signal ended in the ancient neutral zone. No one lives there, Reyes said. Not anymore, the AI replied. Until now. Reyes stood. Wake the other fleets. Earth needs to know. On Threxos, General Vresh watched as more Terran ships arrived silently in orbit. They weren't for evacuation. They were for defense. Threxos was no longer just a victim. It was now a front line, and Earth was preparing far beyond, in a quiet part of the galaxy once marked dead. Lights flickered in space. Something massive moved behind the stars, and a voice echoed through the void. The Deathworlders have returned, but so have we. The stars over Threxos were gone. Smoke and flame hid the sky, and the ground trembled under the weight of war machines. What was once a peaceful insectoid city now lay in ruin. Zarketh warbeasts tore through buildings like paper. Their ships hovered above, casting red light across the broken streets. In a narrow tunnel beneath the city ruins, High Speaker Velrix crouched beside a wounded soldier. His mandibles clicked softly as he whispered, Hold on, Jaren. Help is coming. A young Threxian with shattered limbs blinked slowly. We sent the signal, didn't we? Velrix nodded. Yes. Reinforcements are on the way. The message was heard. But he didn't say by whom. Velrix had seen the strange signal return to them. The translation was rough, the symbols alien, but the meaning was clear. Message received. Reinforcements inbound. Stand by. He didn't know who had responded. The Threxians had sent their distress call across the galaxy, but something unexpected had answered. Far above, hidden behind the shadows of a dead moon, Earth's warfleet emerged from slipspace. A single command ship led them TNS Retribution, an enormous Terran war carrier that hadn't been used in battle for over a century. The fleet wasn't flashy, no banners, no music, just cold, silent metal and firepower that could erase worlds. Admiral Carla Vance stood on the bridge of the Retribution, staring at the incoming transmission from Threxos. Live images, she asked. The screen flickered. A shaky drone feed revealed Zarkith troops butchering what was left of the Threxian defenders. They're not even fighting back, her XO Lieutenant Radek muttered. Because they can't, Carla replied. They're civilians with plasma tools and mining suits. Radek turned. So what's the plan, Admiral? Carla narrowed her eyes. The Zarkith came for conquest. We'll give them extinction. She raised her hand. All units, weapons free. Moments later, the Terran fleet began to move. Down on Threxos, Zarkuth Commandant Korthok watched his forces from a floating throne platform. His scales shimmered with pride as he laughed. Another city falls. Their signal failed. No one is coming. But his laughter died when the sky above turned white. Not red, not orange, white. Blinding, a soundless flash rippled across the horizon. Zarkith warships vanished midair, torn apart by precise kinetic strikes. Railgun rounds traveling at near-light speed ripped through command bunkers. Plasma lances carved through entire tank formations like paper. Korthak screamed into his comms. What is that? Who is attacking? But no answer came. His communications were dead. Above the battlefield, the TNS Retribution loomed, casting a cold shadow over the burning ground. Drop pods launched in silence, smashing into the surface. Like meteors. Out of each came armored giant Starin shock troopers. 10 feet tall, black armor, no insignias, no mercy. One Zarkith officer charged them. He was split in half by a single Gauss blast. A Threxian elder watched from a shattered dome as a squad of Terrans moved through the battlefield like ghosts. Not one fell. Not one missed a shot. They fought with brutal, calculated efficiency. Velrix emerged from the underground tunnel, eyes wide as a Terran soldier approached. He raised his upper limbs in peace. We sent the message. Are you the ones who answered? The soldier didn't reply. His helmet faceplate was featureless, but he stepped aside, letting Velrix see behind him. Dozens of Zarkath, prisoners bound. Unconscious, Velrix whispered. You? You saved us. Finally, the soldier spoke through a distorted voice modulator. No, we answered a call. Saving comes later. And then he was gone, rejoining his squad as more drop pods thundered. Down across the continent, Korthok ran through the jungle, his royal robes in tatters. Around him, Zarkath troops fled like insects. Some fired blindly into the trees, others screamed for their mothers. None escaped. A high-pitched whine filled the air. Then Kraket. White-hot slug punched through Korthok's chest. He collapsed face-first in the mud, clawing at the dirt. Above him, a small Terran recon drone hovered for a second. Then it moved on. Back aboard the TNS Retribution, Admiral Carla received the casualty reports. Terran losses, 0. Zarkith forces neutralized, 96%. Remaining enemy forces fleeing, or surrendered. She gave a slow nod, signal to Threxian leadership. Let's talk peace. Velrix stood before a massive hologram screen showing the Terran admiral. We owe you our lives, he said. Who are you? Carla didn't smile. We're from Earth, a planet once called a Beth world. You sent a message asking for reinforcements. Velrix lowered his head. We didn't mean to reach you. It was a mistake. Carla's expression stayed cold. Maybe, but now the galaxy knows what happens when you send that message. and Earth hears it. On dozens of other worlds, across many star systems, other species watch the battle footage in silence, the sight of black-armored Terrans walking through fire, Zarkith warships falling from the sky, Threxians weeping with joy. And one message echoed across the stars. They asked for reinforcements, but what answered terrified the galaxy. The stars above Threxos were quiet. Too quiet, Captain Thalrek stood on the ruins of an old skyport, his long wings torn, his mandibles twitching. All around him, smoke rose from shattered buildings. The Zarketh invaders had moved on, leaving only ruin behind in silence. "We survived," whispered Larley, a younger Threxian who had fought beside him. But for how long? Thalrek didn't answer. He stared at the sky. He remembered the desperate message they had sent. They had screamed for help, for reinforcements, but no one answered until now. A low rumble filled the air. The ground trembled. Thalrek's eyes narrowed. "Do you feel that?" Larley nodded slowly. "It's coming from above." They looked up and saw hell arriving. A fleet of ships broke through the clouds knot, smooth and shining like Zarkath ships. These were black, angular, and terrifying. Their hulls bristled with weapons. Their engines screamed like angry ghosts. The Threxians around the ruins stepped back in fear. What are those?" someone whispered. The lead ship descended. Slowly, it was massive, larger than any they had ever seen. It cast a dark shadow across the ruins. On its hull, strange symbols were carved, words in an ancient, forgotten language. The ramp lowered with a hiss, and they stepped out, humans, but these were not like the peaceful explorers from old stories. No, these humans wore dark armor. Their helmets glowed red, their boots crushed the broken ground with every step. One of them stopped and looked at Thalrek. "Identify yourself," the human said, voice cold and metallic through the helmet. I'm Captain Thalrek, of the Threxian people," he stammered. "We sent a call for help. Are you here to help us?" The human tilted his head. "We received your message, and we respond with force." Larley stepped forward nervously. You are reinforcements." Another human, taller, spoke. His voice had a strange accent. "We are the Solus Cores, born from Earth, forged in war. We do not come to save. We come to end threats and threats," Thalrek echoed. The tall human pointed to the sky. "Your enemy, the Zarkith Dominion. They have attacked a protected world, they have broken the old laws, and now they pay." Without another word, the humans moved. Hundreds more stepped out from the ship, some carrying massive weapons. Drones followed, scanning the ruins. Robots walked with them, hulking machines with glowing blue eyes. Thalrek looked at Larley. "Do you think they know mercy?" Larley shook her head. "I don't think they are here for mercy." Another ship landed nearby. It was faster, sleeker. A human woman stepped out. She wore no helmet, just black armor, and a scar across her cheek. Her eyes were sharp and cold. "Colonel Voss," said one of the soldiers, saluting. She walked straight. To Thalrek, "You're the one who sent the signal?" she asked. "Yes," Thalrek said. "We had no hope left. We begged for reinforcements. And you came." She stared at him for a moment, then said, "We tracked the signal. The Zar trail was easy to follow." "They will not survive this." Thalrek hesitated. "Are you sure?" "They have destroyed every fleet that faced them." Voss smirked. "Then they haven't faced us." With that, she turned and barked orders. Within minutes, the human war machines roared to life, tanks with glowing plasma cores, walkers with railguns, flying drones that zipped into the air like hornets. A portal opened in the sky, and the fleet moved through it, back in orbit. The Terran command ship, Oblivion's Edge, floated like a silent god. On the bridge, Admiral Raz watched the data scroll. Across his screen, targets locked. Zarkith fleet detected on the dark side of Moon Threxer 3. He leaned forward. "Launch protocol, Hellfire." "Yes, sir," came the reply. Far above, in the cold silence of space, massive cannons rotated. Energy built in their cores. And then, the sky exploded. From Threxos, the people looked up and gasped. Beams of red light tore through the heavens. Stars seemed to vanish behind waves of fire. One of the Threxians whispered, "Is that... Justice?" Larley whispered back. No, that's vengeance. Down on the battlefield, Colonel Voss walked beside her troops. Target their command ships first, she ordered, then wipe out their fuel depots. I want their fleet crippled before they can even react. One of her lieutenants hesitated. Ma'am, what about survivors? Voss stopped walking. Survivors? Her voice was low. Yes, civilians, children maybe. Do we take prisoners? She turned and looked him dead in the eyes. Did the Zarkith take prisoners here? The lieutenant went quiet. Then we leave none. Thalrek, listening nearby, felt a chill crawl down his back. These were not reinforcements, they were executioners, and yet he did not feel afraid. He felt relief, because, for the first time since the war began, the Zarkith were running. The ground shook beneath Commander Relin's feet. Dust clouds rose high above the shattered skyline of Threxos Prime. He stood at what was once the Grand Hall of Harmony, now reduced to rubble and bones. The Zarkith had not just attacked, they had erased the soul of a peaceful people. I want eyes in orbit, Relin barked, his translator device buzzing. Report how many Death Worlder ships are still in the upper atmosphere. 6, said Scout Lieutenant Varen, antennae twitching. But they're not doing anything, just watching. Relin's mind raced. Watching? They've destroyed Zarkith dropships with single shots. Why are they just hovering now? Before anyone could answer, a low rumble swept across the horizon. A line of black metal crawled over the hills, machines taller than buildings, legs pounding the earth with mechanical rage. Behind them marched armored Terran infantry rows of black-armored Deathworlders, helmets glowing red in the dust storm. Relin's communicator chirped. Commander Relin, this is Major Carter of the Earth Fleet. Prepare your forces for full extraction. You are no longer required to fight. What extraction? Relin stammered. But we are not finished. Resisting Carter's voice cut through the channel like steel. You've fought enough. It's our turn now. On the outskirts of the last Threxian city, the Zarkith gathered in force thousands of bioengineered warriors, each one stronger than 10 Threxians. Their hive commanders shouted over the screeches of their war beasts. Push forward! Their last city falls tonight. But as the Zarkith legions surged, a shadow fell over them. Then came the sound Kuthum, a sound that wasn't natural. It wasn't even war. It was Doomdot from the smoke. The Earth mechs emerged. They weren't just machines. They were nightmares made of iron. 30-foot bipedal titans with plasma lances, shoulder-mounted railguns, and steel fists designed to rip ships in half. The Zarkith stopped cold. One of the mechs stepped forward and raised an arm. A single railgun shot screamed through the valley, and the front line of the Zarkith simply vanished, nothing left but dust and body parts. A roar came from the sky. Bombers now entering the fray. Back in orbit, Admiral Sarah Monroe sat aboard the Terran flagship Indomitable Resolve. Her eyes scanned the battlefield feed. Phase 2 began full suppression. Confirmed, her weapons officer replied. Carpet strike zones locked. Below, dozens of kinetic rods metal spears the size of buses dropped from orbit like silver death, boom boom boom. Zarkith war camps exploded. Fuel depots became craters. Screams echoed over the landscape. Is this vengeance? Asked one of the Threxian officers watching from the command shelter. No, Carter said, arms folded, eyes cold. This is justice. You cried for help, and Earth answers loud. Among the chaos, a single Zarkith warlord roared. We were not warned of this. Who are these monsters? Not monsters, Deathworlders, the warlord screamed. Then we leave. Now, but there was nowhere to run. Earth's assault was coordinated, precise, relentless, for every Zarkith who tried to retreat. 3 drones hunted them down. No mercy, no escape. One Earth drone caught a fleeing warbeast. The AI locked on, fired, and within seconds, the beast was dust, and the fleeing Zarkith with it. In the ruins of Threxos Prime, Relin stared at the sky. It no longer burned. Instead, Earth's ships hovered like silent gods, their blue engines glowing softly. No more Zarkith, no more terror, just silence. And the humming of machines cleaning up the mess. Carter walked toward Relin. We'll leave when it's safe, the human said. We don't stay longer than needed. You saved us, Relin whispered. Carter didn't smile. He just nodded. Next time, send the message sooner. But it wasn't meant for you, Varen said, stepping beside his commander. Carter looked up at the stars, his voice quiet. Yeah, we hear that a lot. Back aboard the indomitable Resolve, Admiral Monroe turned to her comms officer. Send a message. To Central Command, she said, Threxos is secured. Zarketh wiped from the surface. Begin humanitarian drops. The officer hesitated. Ma'am, what about the rumors? Other systems, other worlds. Monroe's expression darkened. If the Zarkith were here, they're somewhere else too. She stood, eyes sharp. Prepare the fleet. This isn't over, not yet. In a quiet corner of the Threxian city, a young hatchling stared at the massive Earth mech, still standing watch nearby. The child reached out a tiny claw. The mech sensors detected the motion and gently lowered its arm, letting the hatchling touch its cold metal. The hatchling smiled, so did the human pilot inside. The sky above the Nevada testing range shimmered with unnatural light. The generals stood silently on the balcony of Observation Tower Theta. Below them, the desert quaked. From deep underground, massive hangar doors opened, revealing something no alien race had ever imagined: Earth's true power. A line of dark, monstrous machines rose from the sand like titans, AI-guided rail tanks, anti-orbital missile batteries, grav-tread walkers bristling with plasma cannons. General Cortez turned to Admiral Riker. Are the Threxian coordinates locked? Riker nodded. Fleet Command has a firing solution. The Dominion doesn't know what it just invited. A low, thunderous hum filled the air as the Deathworlders prepared for war. The Threxians on outpost. The few remaining survivors hid in old tunnels beneath the capital. Priest Commander Valreath knelt before the old transmitter, antenna crackling. Please, anyone, we are not warriors. We cannot fight the Dominion alone. He didn't expect a reply, but then a voice came cold. Calm, human. This is Earth Command. Reinforcements, en route. Hold position. Valreath's eyes widened. You answered. Yes, the voice said, but this will not be the help Yoon expected. In the blackness of space, Dominion warships loomed over Outpost 9 like vultures. Their siege had been relentless, city after city vaporized. Zarketh Commander Raltek watched from his flagship's throne room, clawed fingers tapping against his armored leg. These Threxians are pitiful, he sneered. Send the final wave. I want no survivors. Yes, Commander, came the hissed reply, but then dash alarms. A wave of unknown ships had just dropped from hyperspace. Raltek rose. Identify. The sensors struggled. The readings made no sense. Small ships, fast, deadly, emitting strange radiation. Then came the broadcast. Dominion fleet, you are trespassing on a protected system. Vacate immediately or be removed. Raltek's snarl curled into a grin. Earth, that forgotten dust ball, whispered his tactician, fear blooming in his eyes. Deathworlders on the ground, Valreath and the last of the Threxian. Civilians watched the sky light up. But these weren't Dominion bombardments. These were precise, controlled, surgical fire rained down. But it was striking enemy craft only. Threxian watchers cheered, their antennae trembling in awe. From the clouds descended massive drop pods. The impact shook the ground. Steel giants emerged, walking tanks piloted by enhanced Terrans. Their eyes glowed behind armored visors. Their rifles too big for any Threxian to lift crackled with energy that could melt through. Dominion plating, Velriith, approached one cautiously. You came. Why? The soldier's voice rumbled through the helmet. You asked. In orbit. The Dominion fleet was in chaos. Earth's warships didn't fight like anyone else. They didn't form neat formations or follow standard protocols. They were wild, unpredictable, efficient. The Havoc corvette disabled 5 enemy cruisers in less than 60 seconds. The Typhon battleship erased a Dominion dreadnought with a single antimatter salvo. But it wasn't just power, it was precision. They didn't hit Threxian cities. They didn't cause unnecessary destruction. Every shot was intentional. Raltek slammed his fist into the control panel. How? This species was supposed to be dead. His second-in-command whispered, they never died, they waited. Back on Earth, deep within the Black Vault, Earth Command watched the footage live. Dozens of alien civilizations had accessed the broadcast. They watched as Earth's long-forgotten delivered judgment, and across those civilizations, whispers began. The Deathworlders have returned. Earth is awake. On Outpost 9, Peace returned for the first time in years. Threxian children peeked out of tunnels. Human engineers began rebuilding. Automated drones swept rubble into piles. Defensive satellites were launched to orbit. Velreith stood beside the Terran commander, both watching the sunrise. "Your people, you fight like no one else," he said softly. The human nodded. "Because we know what it's like to face extinction. We survived our own wars, our own monsters." Velreith hesitated. "Will you leave us now?" The soldier looked to the sky. "No, Earth remembers who cried for help, and Earth doesn't abandon allies." But in the shadows of space, others watched too. On a distant Dominion world, an elder Zarketh priest listened to the retreat reports. They were defeated by Terrans. "Yes," came the reply. "Earth has returned." Their Deathworlders answered the call. The elder closed his eyes. Then the true war is just beginning, and somewhere, deep in the void, Earth's war engines continued to awaken. Because the galaxy had cried for help, and Earth had answered with fury. The sky above Earth's war fleet shimmered as the last hyperspace corridor sealed behind them. On the bridge of the TNS Vindicator, Admiral Cora Hayes stood silent, arms crossed, staring at the main display. Dozens of smaller screens showed real-time footage of Threxos's surface scorched, its city silent, and only pockets of desperate resistance clinging to life underground. Beside her, Commander Juno exhaled. They didn't have a chance. Cora didn't reply immediately. Her jaw was tight, her eyes calculating. "They called for reinforcements," she said quietly. They didn't expect the Deathworlders to answer. Far below on Threxos, in the ruins of what was once the capital hive, Counselor Lexel crawled through ash and shattered stone. Her wings were torn, her antennae scorched, but she was alive. "Counselor, here this way." A young soldier guided her to a makeshift shelter built from collapsed pillars and rubble. Inside, 3 more Threxians huddled, guarding an old Coms unit barely holding together. Lexel glanced around. "Status, we intercepted something," said one technician, "moments ago. A fleet, non-Zarkith unknown configuration. We think it might be the ones who answered our call." Lexel's mandibles trembled. "You're certain?" The technician nodded. "It's not a Zarkith frequency. It's encrypted, advanced. They're here, in orbit." The Earth fleet fanned out. Phase 1. Orbital sweep, Admiral Hayes ordered. Scan for life signs, prioritize civilian clusters, deploy sentries, and launch fast rescue pods. Automated drones burst from the underbellies of the Terran ships, raining down like burning stars. Each drone was a marvel of technology, camouflaged, armored, and carrying nanomedical systems capable of stabilizing hundreds of wounded Threxians. Commander Juno monitored the scans. "Ma'am, we've detected a Zarkith supercarrier approaching." From the far side of the system, at TA 45 minutes, Cora's lips curled into a cold smile. "Then we'll make the first move." On the Zarketh command bridge, Lord Marshal Kazarn bared his teeth. "Human ships," he growled. "Terrans, Deathworlders." His second-in-command, a lean reptilian named Draz, hissed. "They answered the call. They never forget," Kazarn muttered. "Even after centuries in isolation, they always return for war." Kazarn raised a hand. "Ready all weapons. Burn them from the stars." Back in the ruins of Threxos, rescue pods landed with thunderous impacts. They deployed instantly armored panels, sliding open, robotic medics unfolding like flowers. One pod crashed mere meters from Counselor Lexel's shelter. The Threxians panicked, fearing Zarketh fire, until a mechanical voice echoed, "Do not be afraid. We are here to help." From the smoke stepped a human clad in black armor, visor gleaming. Holding a plasma rifle casually at their side, Lexel trembled. "Why, you're from Earth." The soldier gave a nod. "Sergeant Milo Reyes, Terran Naval Infantry. You called." "We answered. But why?" one of the Threxians whispered. Milo knelt beside a wounded hatchling and applied a stabilizer. "Because Your enemy became ours the moment you were hunted without mercy, and because Earth remembers what it means to be alone. Above, the TNS Vindicator locked weapons. Targeting grid ready, said Juno. Target the Zarketh engines. Cripple them. We want them to watch what we do next. With a whisper of energy, Earth's warships fired. Twin lances of red plasma shot across space, striking the Zarkaf carrier dead in its drive core. The explosion wasn't cataclysmic, it was surgical. The Zarkith ship spun, power flickering, its engines dead and weapons half blind. The Terrans advanced. Bring in the juggernauts, Cora commanded. From behind the main fleet, massive dropships descended, each carrying walking war machines the size of buildings. The juggernauts were Earth's answer to planetary dominance bipedal tanks with shields, heavy artillery, and adaptive AI that made them smarter than most commanders. The Threxians emerged from their shelters. Awestruck, the juggernauts marched through fire and ash, clearing the ruins of Zarketh remnants, pulling survivors from beneath collapsed domes, shielding them with armor designed to withstand the fury of a star. Counselor Lexell watched in silence, her voice low. I thought we were forgotten. Sergeant Reyes turned to her. Earth never forgets. On the disabled Zarketh ship, chaos erupted. Boarding pods incoming. An officer screamed. The humans weren't just fighting from afar. They were boarding. Swarms of Terran shock troops stormed the corridors. They moved with surgical precision, cutting down resistance, jamming enemy signals, planting EMP mines to blind Zarketh countermeasures. Within minutes, the bridge was seized. Kazarn fought to the end, claws soaked in blood, his body torn by shrapnel. But a single human, Captain Arlen Voss, faced him down. You came to burn another world, Voss said coldly, but this time the fire burns back. Kazarn lunged. Voss didn't flinch. The blade slid between the Zarkoth's ribs, back on Threxos. Admiral Hayes watched the battle's end unfold from orbit. One by one, the remaining Zarketh ships fled. Cowards, they had not expected resistance. They certainly hadn't expected humanity. They'll go crying to their overlords, Juno said. Let them, Cora replied. Let the whole galaxy know. What happens when you hunt the hapless and Earth? He asked. She looked out the viewport. Earth waits, Earth watches. But when the time comes, Earth answers. Below, under the rising Threxian suns, hundreds of Terran medics worked side by side with survivors. Fields were cleared, freshwater systems restored, homes rebuilt with Earth's nanoconstructors. Counselor Lexell stood on a hill, antennae twitching. As she watched the once-dead city slowly breathe again, Sergeant Reyes approached. We're leaving a battalion here, defensive satellites, food generators, even a few AI advisors to help rebuild. Lexell blinked in awe. You came not just to fight, you came to save us, Reyes nodded. Because that's what we do. She looked up at the sky, now calm blue and full of promise, and for the first time in weeks, she smiled. The sky above the Zarketh war cruiser flagship, Oblivion's Claw, shimmered with lightning as its subspace core surged with power. Commander Scareth, cloaked in bioarmor and dripping with venomous pride, stood on the bridge with folded arms. His red eyes scanned the swirling map of the galaxy. The signal that cursed signal had led them here. They had traced the interference, the anomaly, the ancient energy trail, right to a forgotten sector marked in their archives as Dead Zone. 1. Earth, he hissed. The origin of the interference. The Death World. The room fell silent. Even the Zarketh warriors behind him shifted nervously. Commander, one of the lieutenants, finally said, The scouts. They never returned. None of them. Then we send the main fleet, Scareth growled. I want this Earth erased. Meanwhile, above the orbit of a gas giant just outside Sol's reach, the Hercules, flagship of the Terran Vanguard, hovered like a ghost. Admiral Helena Voss watched the tactical screen. The AI AEGIS displayed the enemy fleet forming on the edge of the solar system. They're coming, Helena said softly, right into the lion's den. Captain Ramirez turned from his station. We still haven't fully repaired the kinetic barrier system. If they breach Neptune's defense ring, they won't, Helena cut in. Earth is not to be touched. AEGIS. The AIS voice echoed calmly. Command acknowledged. Activating protocol Thunder. Wake, deep in the void, dormant Terran. War satellites long forgotten by the rest of the galaxy, lit up one by one. Their ancient cores reactivated, spinning with a low hum. The Death World's final defense net came online. The Zarkith fleet reached Neptune's outer orbit like a swarm of black insects. Ships bristling with organic tendrils and plasma spines locked into attack formations, ready plasma spears. "Rip through their primitive walls," Commander Scarith ordered, but then the space exploded. From the void came beams of condensed gravity, ripping apart the lead ships like paper. Terran war satellites fired silently, mercilessly, without warning. Shields failing, Zarkath captains screamed. Scarith's rage boiled. "Return fire!" "Wipe them," he didn't finish. A Terran stealth frigate uncloaked right above his cruiser and unleashed a barrage of nanite torpedoes. They punched through the Zarkith hull like bullets through flesh. The Oblivion's claw shuddered. "Commander, hull breach on levels 5 through 9. And then came the voice. Not from any Zarkith channel, not from their scanners, but from inside their systems. "You wanted Earth," it whispered. "You found it." The crew froze. A moment later, the ship's lights dimmed. Something had gotten into their network. Scarith stared at the screens. One by one, every Zarkath ship's display began showing the same phrase. "Death World Protocol." "Active," Scarith snarled. "End this now." Back on the Hercules, Helena watched the chaos unfold. "AEGIS, show me their loss ratio." 86% Zarkith destruction. 0 Terran casualties. Helena exhaled slowly. "Good, but this isn't over. They'll try again. They always do." "But, Admiral," Captain Ramirez asked, "why didn't we strike the rest of their empire when we had the chance before? Why let them grow this much?" She turned to him. Her eyes, tired but fierce, held secrets no officer dared ask about before. "Because we were tired of war," she said. "We warned the galaxy. Leave Earth alone. They didn't listen." She looked out the viewport. "We remind them." Just then, a new signal blinked onto the command table. Admiral, AEGIS said, "We are receiving a priority-level distress call. Origin Threxos 2, Survivor Enclave." Helena's breath caught. "They're still alive, confirmed." Enclave of approximately 7,000 Threxians, holding out beneath the planet's polar crust, requesting extraction. She nodded. "Then we go. Ready the fleet. We're not just here to defend anymore." Captain Ramirez stiffened. "You mean yes?" she said. Time, Earth moves, again. Deep below the polar ice of Threxos 2, the remaining Threxians trembled in their underground shelter. Their long limbs clicked nervously as the structure shook above. The Zarkith were closing in. Their tunnels would not hold much longer. Queen Legate, their Exin, stood at the center of her people. Her once shining carapace was dull from months of dust and blood. Her voice, usually melodic, now cracked with wear. "We have sent our final cry," she said. "We must prepare to face the dark." But then the sky rumbled. No, the ice rumbled suddenly. The ceiling of the main cavern cracked open. A burning beam of energy carved a hole through layers of stone and ice. And then came the machines. Terran dropships, shaped like blades, pierced through and hovered above the stunned Threxians. From them descended armored figures. Not cold machines, but humans in terrifying black battlesuits, glowing with blue lines and bearing the emblem of Earth's old war crest. A voice rang out. Over speakers, by order of Admiral Helena Voss, Terran Vanguard, your signal was heard. You are safe now. Their Exin stepped forward, shaking. You are the monsters of legend. The ones the stars whispered of, you answered. One of the armored figures stepped closer and removed their helmet. It was a young woman's. Across her cheek, eyes burning with resolve. "We're not monsters," she said, "but we are what you call Deathworlders." The cavern erupted in cheers and cries. Some Threxians wept. Others touched the Terran boots in reverence. Them, orbiting Threxos 2, the Hercules and its fleet stood like gods. And behind them, 100 more Terran ships exited stealth mode, spreading across the stars. AEGIS spoke again, calm and final. New objective, dismantle the Zarkith Dominion. One world at a time. Helena leaned forward. For Threxos 4, every plea we ignored before, no more silence. The galaxy was about to learn the true meaning of an answered call, and Earth was no longer sleeping. The stars above Threxos shimmered with silent judgment. Below, the ground trembled. The skies thundered with the sound of war. Earth's fleet had arrived. General Varus of the Threxians stood atop the shattered remains of the Sky Spire, his compound eyes watching in disbelief. The once dark sky now pulsed with light-sleek Terran warships breaking through orbit. Weapons armed, shields glowing. Commander Steele, aboard the Terran battleship Devastator, gave a cold nod. Targets locked, all units unleash hell. The response was immediate. Terran dreadnoughts opened fire. Massive beams of plasma carved through the Zarkith Dominion's armada. Their ships exploded in fireballs, one by one like fireworks celebrating death. Swarms of eye-guided missiles roared toward ground targets' artillery stations. Troop carriers and war factories vanished in molten eruptions. On the ground, the battle changed in seconds. Terran drop pods slammed into the earth. From them emerged towering war machines, battle-hardened Terran mechs, armed with cannons and railguns. Behind them came the soldiers, silent, disciplined, armored in black exosuits, with glowing visors and rifles that hummed with deadly energy. The Zarkith, once confident and brutal, now panicked. New enemy detected, hissed one Zarkith commander, watching his screens flicker red. They are Terrans. They were extinct, another stammered. They were forgotten, a third whispered. No, the first growled. They were waiting. Down in the ruined capital of the Threxians, Varys watched the tide turn. He had no words. Beside him, Minister Kylara trembled with hope. They came, she whispered. Varys nodded. They heard our call. Nearby Zarkith forces tried to regroup, but the Terrans gave them no time. A wave of railgun fire tore through their bunkers. EMP bombs fried their drones. Terran AI systems hacked their comms, flooding Zarketh screens. With one message: we are humanity. This planet is under our protection. Panic spread. The Zarkov's central command ship attempted to flee, but Devastator locked on and fired a singularity missile. The black hole ripped the ship apart mid-jump, tearing it into a million glowing fragments. Commander Steele stood silently as the wreckage spun across space. Message received, he said coldly. Back on the ground, Terran forces pushed deeper. Entire Zarkith regiments surrendered. Others ran, screaming about monsters with steel skin and fire in their hands. Threxian survivors emerged from the ruins frail, wounded, frightened. They watched as the death machines marched past them, but never harmed them. Instead, Terran drones delivered food packs. Medbots moved among the injured. Armored soldiers knelt to hand water to younglings. We expected monsters, Varys said. They are monsters, Kylara replied softly, but they're our monsters now. By the second day, the war was over. The Zarkith Dominion's fleet had been wiped out, their command shattered. Terran warships now circled Threxos like silent guardians in the newly re-established Threxian Council Hall. Varys stood beside a shimmering projection of Commander Steele. You have saved us, Varys, said his voice full of emotion. We owe you our lives. Steele didn't blink. You sent a call for reinforcements, but it wasn't meant for you, Kylara said. Steele's eyes narrowed. You called. We answered. Intent is irrelevant. What happens now? Varys asked. Steele's tone turned cold again. Earth remembers every cry for help, every betrayal, every time the galaxy turned its back on us. We were forgotten. Now we are here, and we will not be ignored again. The room went silent. Kylara asked carefully, Will you stay? No, Steele replied. We will move on. But this system is now under Terran protection. Anyone who threatens it again will face extinction. With that, the transmission cut. Above, Earth's warships began to ascend back into space. The Devastator lingered a moment longer, then vanished in a flash of warp light. On the surface, peace slowly returned. The Threxians rebuilt. Their young played without fear. Cities rose again from ash and stone, but they never forgot who saved them. They built a monument in the center of the capital, a black obelisk with Terran script etched in silver. In our darkest hour, they came, not as saviors, but as vengeance made flesh. Across the galaxy, word spread. The Zarkith Dominion collapsed. Its remaining leaders feared to speak of Earth. Other species began whispering in fear and awe. The death world had awoken. And it had warships. Humanity didn't just answer the call for help. It reminded the galaxy what fear truly was. The end.